Have you ever passed through a city without realizing that beneath its streets lies the story of an empire, a civilization, and the legacy that once connected the world? Millions of travelers race across Western Java every year. They rush toward beaches, ports, and famous tourist destinations. They pass highways, bus terminals, and crowded intersections without ever stopping to ask a simple question. What is the story of Serang? To many people, Serang is merely a transit city, a place they pass on the way to somewhere else, a name on a road sign, a dot on a map. But history tells a very different story, because hidden behind the modern buildings, government offices, and growing urban landscape stands a city whose roots stretch back centuries into one of the most powerful kingdoms Southeast Asia has ever known. Welcome to Serang, the capital city of Banten province, a city where the past and the future stand side by side, a city where ancient mosques rise above the echoes of forgotten kingdoms, a city where every stone, every ruin, and every historic pathway whispers stories of faith, trade, power, and resilience. Most people know Jakarta. Many have heard of Bandung. Some dream of visiting Bali. Yet few realize that one of Indonesia's most remarkable historical treasures lies quietly in Serang. And perhaps that is what makes it so extraordinary. Because true greatness does not need to shout. It endures, it survives, it waits to be discovered. Serang officially became an independent city on August 10th, 2007, after being separated from Serang Regency under Indonesian law number 32 of 2007. By national standards, that makes it one of Indonesia's youngest cities. Yet despite its young administrative age, Serang was entrusted with a monumental responsibility. It became the capital of Banten province. Imagine the challenge, a newly established city suddenly carrying the weight of provincial governance, public administration, education, infrastructure development, and economic growth. Many cities spend decades preparing for such a role. Serang inherited it from the very beginning, and remarkably, it embraced the challenge. Roads expanded, public services improved, educational institutions grew, government facilities developed, investment increased, communities flourished. Year after year, Serang continued transforming itself into the administrative heart of Banten, while maintaining a connection to the heritage that shaped its identity. But to understand Serang, we must travel far beyond 2007. We must journey back hundreds of years, back to a time when European ships crossed dangerous oceans in search of spices, back to an era when international trade routes linked Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. Back to the golden age of the Sultanate of Banten. This is where the story becomes truly extraordinary. Long before modern Indonesia existed, Banten emerged as one of the most influential trading powers in the region. Its ports attracted merchants from across the globe. Arab traders arrived carrying goods and knowledge. Chinese merchants brought commerce and cultural exchange. Indian traders connected markets across Asia. European ships sailed thousands of kilometers, hoping to secure access to valuable commodities. Banten was not simply participating in global trade, it was helping shape it. At the center of this remarkable civilization stood what is now known as Banten Lama. Located within the Greater Serang area, Banten Lama represents one of Indonesia's most important historical and cultural landscapes. This was once the beating heart of the Banten Sultanate, a center of politics, a center of religion, a center of international commerce, a center of intellectual life. Even today, visitors can still witness the remnants of that greatness. Perhaps the most iconic symbol is the magnificent Great Mosque of Banten. Built in 1566 by Sultan Maulana Hassanuddin, the mosque stands not merely as a place of worship, but as a testament to centuries of cultural harmony and architectural innovation. Look closely at its design. You will see influences from Javanese traditions. You will notice elements inspired by Hindu architecture. You will recognize touches of Chinese craftsmanship. Different cultures, different traditions, different histories, united in one remarkable structure. It is more than architecture. It is a symbol of coexistence, a reminder that civilizations grow stronger when they embrace diversity rather than fear it. For more than 4 centuries, the Great Mosque of Banten has witnessed history unfold before its eyes. Empires rose, empires fell, colonial powers arrived, wars were fought, generations came and went. Yet the mosque remains, standing proudly as a guardian of memory, standing firmly as a bridge between the past and the present. Nearby lie the remnants of royal palaces, ancient fortifications, historic canals, and archaeological sites that reveal the scale of Banten's former influence. These ruins are not simply broken stones, they are pages of a living history book. Each wall tells a story, each foundation holds a memory, each fragment preserves evidence of a society that once stood among the great trading powers of its time. Imagine the bustling harbour centuries ago, ships arriving from distant lands, sailors speaking dozens of languages, markets overflowing with spices, textiles, ceramics, and precious goods, religious scholars exchanging ideas, diplomats negotiating alliances, entrepreneurs building fortunes. The world came to Banten, and Banten connected itself to the world. That legacy still echoes throughout Serang today. Walk through the city and you will discover a community deeply connected to faith, culture, and tradition. You will encounter people whose identity has been shaped by generations of history. You will find local cuisine carrying influences from centuries of cultural interaction. You will witness traditions that continue to thrive despite rapid modernization. This balance between preservation and progress is one of Serang's greatest strengths. Many cities lose themselves in the pursuit of development. Others become trapped in nostalgia. Serang strives to do both, to move forward while remembering where it came from, to build for the future while honoring the sacrifices of the past. And perhaps that is the lesson hidden within this remarkable city. A lesson relevant not only for Indonesia, but for the entire world. Progress means little without identity. Growth means little without memory. Success means little if we forget the people and stories that made it possible. Serang teaches us that history is not something locked away in museums. History lives within communities. History lives within culture. History lives within architecture. History lives within faith. History lives within ordinary people carrying extraordinary legacies. Today, as the capital of Banten province, Serang continues writing new chapters in its story. Students pursue education, entrepreneurs build businesses, families create opportunities, communities strengthen their future, and all of it unfolds beneath the shadow of a history stretching back hundreds of years. That is what makes Serang remarkable. Not simply its age, not simply its buildings, not simply its government institutions, but its ability to connect different eras into one continuous story. A story of resilience, a story of transformation, a story of cultural harmony, a story of ambition, a story of survival, and a story that deserves to be told far beyond the borders of Banten. So, the next time you travel through Western Java, do not rush past Serang. Pause for a moment. Look beyond the traffic. Look beyond the modern skyline. Look beyond the ordinary. Because hidden there is a city that helped shape history. a city that witnessed the rise of kingdoms, a city that connected nations, a city that preserved its soul through centuries of change, a city that reminds us that some of the world's greatest treasures are not always the most famous. Sometimes they are simply waiting for someone to notice. And that city is Serang. But the story of Serang does not end with ancient mosques, royal palaces, and forgotten kingdoms. In many ways, that is only the beginning, because the true strength of a city is not measured by what it once was. It is measured by what it continues to become. And Serang is a city that refuses to remain trapped in its past. Every morning, as the first rays of sunlight illuminate the rooftops of homes, schools, markets, and government buildings, a new chapter begins. Thousands of students leave their houses carrying dreams bigger than themselves. Teachers dedicate their lives to shaping the next generation. Farmers cultivate the fertile lands surrounding the city. Small business owners open their shops with hope. Workers travel to offices, factories, and institutions that keep the province moving forward. These everyday moments may seem ordinary, but together they form the heartbeat of a city that continues to grow. What many outsiders fail to realize is that Serang occupies a strategic position within one of Indonesia's most important economic corridors. Located at the gateway between Java and Sumatra, Serang sits near critical transportation routes that connect millions of people and countless industries. For centuries, geography helped shape the destiny of this region, and even today, that strategic advantage remains one of its greatest assets. Road networks connect Serang to major urban centers. Ports facilitate trade and transportation. Infrastructure projects continue to improve mobility and accessibility. As Indonesia advances into the future, Serang stands at a crossroads of opportunity. But economic development alone does not define a city. What truly sets Serang apart is its people. Throughout history, the people of Banten have earned a reputation for resilience. Again and again they face challenges, political transitions, economic changes, colonial pressures, natural disasters, periods of uncertainty, yet they endured, they adapted, they rebuilt, they moved forward. That spirit remains alive today. You can feel it in the determination of young entrepreneurs launching startups. You can see it in community organizations working to improve local neighborhoods. You can witness it in cultural festivals that preserve traditions while welcoming new generations. Because resilience is not merely surviving hardship. Resilience is transforming hardship into strength, and Serang has mastered that lesson. One of the most fascinating aspects of the city is the way ancient traditions continue to coexist with modern life. In many places around the world, modernization often erases cultural identity. Historic buildings disappear, traditional practices fade, local stories are forgotten. But in Serang, history remains visible. The call to prayer echoes across neighborhoods, just as it has for centuries. Religious traditions continue to shape community life. Historic sites remain places of reflection and learning. Family values continue to strengthen social bonds. These are not relics of the past, they are living traditions. They are part of the city's DNA. And perhaps that explains why visitors often describe Serang differently after spending time there. They arrive expecting a provincial capital. They leave having discovered something much deeper, a sense of continuity, a sense of identity, a sense of belonging. Because Serang offers something increasingly rare in the modern world: authenticity. In an age of endless digital distractions, authenticity has become one of the most valuable resources on Earth. People travel thousands of kilometers searching for genuine experiences. They seek places that feel real, places with stories, places with soul. Serang possesses those qualities in abundance. Its history is real, its culture is real, Its people are real. Its struggles are real. Its achievements are real. And that authenticity creates a connection that statistics alone can never explain. Yet there is another reason why Serang deserves global attention. Its story reflects the story of Indonesia itself. Think about it. A land shaped by trade, a society enriched by cultural exchange, a nation built upon diversity, a people united despite differences. These themes are woven throughout the history of Serang. Long before globalization became a modern concept, the ports and markets of Banten were already connecting different civilizations. Long before diversity became a political slogan, communities here were already learning how to coexist. Long before international cooperation became a strategic objective, merchants from different continents were already doing business on these shores. In many ways, Serang serves as a reminder that openness and cultural exchange have always been sources of strength. History proves this lesson repeatedly. The most successful civilizations were often those willing to learn from others while preserving their own identity. The Sultanate of Banten understood this. Its leaders engaged with the wider world while maintaining their cultural foundations. Its people welcomed new ideas while protecting local traditions. Its society grew stronger because it embraced connection rather than isolation. That lesson remains relevant today. As the world becomes increasingly interconnected, cities like Serang demonstrate how progress and heritage can coexist, how innovation and tradition can support one another, how communities can modernize without losing their soul. This is not an easy balance to achieve, yet it is one of the defining characteristics of Serang's journey. And the journey continues. Every new school built, every business launched, every cultural event celebrated, every infrastructure project completed, every student who graduates, every family that builds a better future, all of these become part of the city's evolving story. A story that began centuries ago and is still being written today. Perhaps the greatest misconception about places like Serang is the belief that significance belongs only to famous cities. The world often focuses on global capitals, financial centers, tourist hotspots, megacities with towering skylines. But history teaches a different lesson. Some of humanity's most important stories began in places that were overlooked, places that seemed ordinary, places that quietly shaped the future without demanding attention. Serang is one of those places. Its influence extends far beyond what many people realize. Its legacy reaches further than maps can show. Its lessons remain relevant long after empires have disappeared. And that is why its story matters, not only for the people of Banten, not only for Indonesians, but for anyone who believes that history still has the power to inspire the future. Because when we look at Serang, we see more than a city. We see proof that identity can survive change. We see proof that culture can endure modernization. We see proof that communities can honor the past while embracing the future. Most importantly, we see proof that greatness is not always loud. Sometimes greatness is patient. Sometimes greatness is humble. Sometimes greatness waits quietly for centuries, hidden in plain sight, until the world is finally ready to listen. And Serang has been waiting for a very long time. If you stand in Serang long enough, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop seeing it as a destination. You start seeing it as a symbol of how civilizations rise, a symbol of how cultures survive, a symbol of how communities preserve their identity through centuries of change. Because beneath every road, every neighborhood, every historic site, and every modern building lies a deeper story, the story of people. History is often told through kings, sultans, generals, and political leaders. But cities are not built by rulers alone. Cities are built by generations, by mothers who raised families through difficult times, by farmers who cultivated the land, by merchants who carried goods across oceans, by scholars who shared knowledge, by craftsmen who built mosques, homes, canals, and marketplaces, by ordinary people whose names may never appear in history books, yet whose contributions shaped the future. Serang exists today because countless generations refused to give up on their dreams. Think about the people who lived here hundreds of years ago. They could not have imagined the modern world. They could not have imagined airplanes crossing continents in hours. They could not have imagined smartphones connecting billions of people. They could not have imagined Indonesia as a modern republic. Yet despite all the changes they could never foresee, their legacy remains alive. Their choices mattered. Their sacrifices mattered. Their vision mattered. And that truth carries an important message for all of us. The actions we take today become the history someone else will inherit tomorrow. Every generation receives a legacy. Every generation adds to that legacy. Every generation passes it forward. Serang is living proof of that process. The city inherited the legacy of the Sultanate of Banten. It inherited centuries of religious scholarship. It inherited traditions of trade and cultural exchange. It inherited stories of resilience and perseverance. Now it is creating a legacy of its own, a legacy shaped by education, a legacy shaped by innovation, a legacy shaped by development, a legacy shaped by the aspirations of millions of people who call Banten home. This transformation can be seen across the city. Universities and schools prepare students for a rapidly changing world. Public institutions strengthen governance and public services. Infrastructure projects improve connectivity and opportunity. Businesses create jobs and economic growth. Communities embrace technology while preserving tradition. Together, these efforts are helping define what Serang will become in the decades ahead. But perhaps the city's greatest resource is not its infrastructure, not its strategic location, not its government institutions, not even its extraordinary history. Its greatest resource is its youth. Young people represent the next chapter of Serang's story, a generation connected to the world through technology, a generation with access to knowledge unlike any generation before it, a generation capable of solving challenges that once seemed impossible. Every young student walking through a school gate today carries possibilities that could transform the future. The next entrepreneur, the next scientist, the next artist, the next teacher, the next innovator, the next leader, the next person whose ideas change lives. The future of Serang is already being written in classrooms, homes, and communities across the city, and that future is filled with potential. Yet progress does not mean forgetting the lessons of history. In fact, history becomes even more important during times of rapid change, because history provides perspective. It reminds us that every generation faces uncertainty. It reminds us that challenges are temporary. It reminds us that resilience creates opportunity. When people visit the historic sites of Banten Lama, they often see ancient walls and weathered structures. But those ruins represent something far greater than architecture. They represent endurance. They represent survival. They represent the ability of a civilization to leave a lasting mark on the world. Empires have disappeared. Trade routes have shifted. Technologies have transformed society. Yet centuries later, people still travel to these sites, seeking connection with the past. That is the power of legacy. And legacy is not measured by wealth. It is not measured by fame. It is not measured by political power. Legacy is measured by impact, by the lives touched, by the values preserved, by the inspiration passed from one generation to the next. In that sense, Serang possesses a legacy that cannot be quantified. A legacy written not only in monuments and historical records, but in the character of its people. The world today faces enormous challenges: rapid urbanisation, climate change, economic uncertainty, technological disruption, social transformation. Every city must navigate these realities. Serang is no exception. Yet history suggests there is reason for optimism, because cities that survive for centuries develop a unique strength. They learn how to adapt. They learn how to evolve. They learn how to overcome adversity. Serang has demonstrated that strength repeatedly throughout its history. It has witnessed dramatic political changes. It has experienced economic transitions. It has adapted to new realities time and again. And each time it emerged with its identity intact. That ability to evolve while remaining true to core values may be the city's greatest achievement. It is also one of its greatest lessons. You do not have to choose between tradition and progress. You can honour both. You do not have to abandon your roots to embrace the future. You can carry them forward. You do not have to forget where you came from in order to become something greater. In fact, remembering where you came from often provides the foundation for where you are going. That lesson extends far beyond Serang. It applies to communities everywhere. It applies to nations. It applies to individuals. And perhaps that is why stories like this resonate so deeply, because at their core, they are not just about places. They are about people. They are about identity. They are about purpose. They are about the enduring human desire to create something meaningful that lasts beyond our own lifetime. As evening falls over Serang and the city lights begin to glow, the contrast between past and present becomes even more striking. Ancient landmarks stand not far from modern developments. Historic traditions coexist with contemporary lifestyles. The echoes of centuries past blend with the ambitions of tomorrow. Few places illustrate this balance as beautifully as Serang. It is a city shaped by history, but not confined by it. A city proud of its heritage, but focused on its future. A city that understands that progress is strongest when built upon a foundation of identity. And perhaps one day, more people around the world will recognise what has been here all along. Not just a provincial capital, not just a historic destination, not just a city on the map, but a living testament to resilience, faith, culture, and human ambition. A city that once helped connect the world. A city that continues to inspire those who take the time to understand it. A city whose greatest chapter may still lie ahead. Because the story of Serang is not finished. It is still unfolding. With every sunrise, with every new generation, with every dream pursued, with every challenge overcome, and with every person who discovers that some of the most extraordinary places in the world are not always the most famous. Sometimes they are the places quietly building the future while carrying the wisdom of the past. And that is exactly what Serang continues to do. And perhaps that is the most beautiful part of Serang's story. The fact that it continues. Not as a chapter frozen in history, not as a monument to a forgotten age, but as a living, breathing city where the past still guides the future. There is a saying that every city has a soul. Some cities express their soul through towering skyscrapers, some through technological innovation, some through wealth and global influence. Serang expresses its soul through memory, through faith, through resilience, through the quiet confidence that comes from knowing exactly where it came from. That confidence cannot be manufactured. It cannot be bought. It cannot be built overnight. It is earned over centuries. It is forged through challenges. It is strengthened through sacrifice. And it becomes part of a city's identity. Walk through Serang and you will discover something that statistics cannot capture. A sense of continuity, a feeling that generations are connected through invisible threads stretching across time. The grandparents who preserve traditions, the parents who build opportunities, the children who dream of a brighter future, all contributing to a story larger than themselves. That story began long before any of them were born, and it will continue long after they are gone. This understanding changes the way we see a place. Suddenly, a city becomes more than infrastructure, more than population numbers, more than economic data. It becomes a human story, and human stories are what truly shape the world. The history of Serang reminds us that greatness is often misunderstood. Many people assume greatness means being the biggest, the richest, the most famous, the most powerful. But history repeatedly proves otherwise. Some of the most influential places in human civilization were not always the largest. Their importance came from their ideas, their values, their culture, their ability to connect people, their ability to inspire generations. The Sultanate of Banten demonstrated this centuries ago. At a time when maritime trade connected distant continents, Banten emerged as a crossroads of civilizations. People from different backgrounds met here, different languages were spoken, different beliefs coexisted, different cultures exchanged knowledge. The result was a society enriched by diversity and strengthened by interaction. That legacy remains one of Serang's greatest treasures. In today's increasingly connected world, those lessons feel more relevant than ever, because the future will belong to communities capable of embracing change without losing their identity, communities capable of learning from others while remaining true to their values, communities capable of transforming diversity into strength. Serang's history offers a powerful example of exactly that. Yet perhaps the city's greatest contribution is not what it teaches about the past, it is what it teaches about possibility. Possibility is a powerful force. It inspires innovation, it fuels ambition, it motivates people to pursue goals that once seemed impossible. Every generation of Serang has lived with possibility, the possibility of growth, the possibility of prosperity, the possibility of creating a better future. That spirit continues today. Young entrepreneurs launch businesses with ideas that can reach global markets. Students study subjects that previous generations could only dream of learning. Communities embrace technology to solve local challenges. Artists, educators, engineers, and leaders work together to build new opportunities. The city continues evolving, not by abandoning its identity, but by building upon it. This is how lasting progress happens, not through sudden transformation, but through continuous effort, through countless small actions repeated day after day. A student studying late into the night, a teacher inspiring a classroom, a business owner creating jobs, a community leader solving local problems, a family investing in education, a volunteer helping others. These actions may seem ordinary, yet collectively they shape the future. And they are happening across Serang every single day. The world often celebrates dramatic moments, historic battles, political revolutions, technological breakthroughs. But most progress happens quietly. It happens through perseverance. It happens through dedication. It happens through people who continue moving forward even when recognition never comes. Serang understands this truth. Its history was not built in a single year. Its culture was not created overnight. Its identity was not formed by one generation alone. Everything we see today is the result of centuries of effort, centuries of courage, centuries of faith, centuries of determination. And that perspective offers an important reminder for all of us. Meaningful achievements take time, strong communities take time, lasting legacies take time. The people who built the foundations of Serang may never have seen the city as it exists today, yet their efforts mattered, their sacrifices mattered, their dreams mattered, because every generation contributes a piece to a much larger story. This understanding creates a profound sense of responsibility. What kind of legacy will today's generation leave behind? What stories will future generations tell about this era? What values will they inherit? What opportunities will they receive? These questions matter not only in Serang, but everywhere, because every community is writing its future through the choices it makes today. And Serang continues writing its future with remarkable determination. The city faces challenges, just like every growing urban centre. But challenges are not signs of weakness. Challenges are opportunities to demonstrate strength. Throughout history, Serang has repeatedly shown its ability to adapt, to rebuild, to innovate, to endure. There is every reason to believe it will continue doing so. As Indonesia advances through the 21st century, Serang stands ready to contribute to the nation's progress. Its strategic location offers economic opportunities. Its educational institutions nurture talent. Its cultural heritage attracts visitors and scholars. Its communities provide the social foundation necessary for sustainable growth. Most importantly, its people carry forward a tradition of resilience that has endured for centuries. That resilience may ultimately become the city's greatest advantage. Because technology changes, economies change, governments change, the world changes, but resilience remains timeless. And resilience has always been part of Serang's identity. Perhaps one day, travellers from around the world will speak of Serang with the same admiration reserved for more famous destinations. Perhaps they will recognise its role in shaping history, its contribution to culture, its significance within Indonesia's national story. Perhaps they will understand what local communities have known all along, that Serang is not simply a place, it is an experience, a lesson, an inspiration, a reminder that greatness often grows quietly, far from headlines, far from international attention, far from the spotlight. Until one day, the world finally notices what has been there all along. A city built on history, a city strengthened by faith, a city enriched by culture, a city driven by ambition, a city guided by resilience, a city determined to honour its past while creating an even brighter future. And as the sun rises once again over the capital of Banten, illuminating ancient landmarks and modern aspirations alike, the story continues. A story centuries in the making, a story still unfolding. A story of Serang, a story of Indonesia, a story of humanity's endless capacity to endure, to adapt, to dream, and to build a better tomorrow. And perhaps, when future generations look back upon this era, they will see what we can already see today. That Serang was never merely a city. It was a testament to what becomes possible when history, culture, faith, and human determination come together in one extraordinary place. But if you truly want to understand Serang, you must look beyond its landmarks, beyond the mosques, beyond the ruins, beyond the government buildings, beyond the statistics. You must listen to the stories carried by the people themselves. Because cities do not create history, people create history. And for centuries, The people of this land have been the guardians of a legacy far greater than any single generation. Imagine standing here hundreds of years ago, the air filled with the sounds of merchants negotiating prices, the scent of spices drifting through crowded markets, ships arriving from distant horizons after months at sea, scholars debating ideas, religious leaders teaching wisdom, artisans crafting works that reflected the beauty of their culture. This was not a forgotten corner of the world. This was a place connected to global currents of trade, knowledge, and civilization. The world came to Banten, and through Banten, countless people encountered one another's cultures, beliefs, and traditions. That exchange shaped the identity of the region. It fostered openness. It encouraged learning. It created opportunities. Most importantly, it demonstrated that prosperity grows when people are willing to connect rather than divide. This lesson echoes through history. Every flourishing civilization has been built upon cooperation, upon curiosity, upon the willingness to learn from others. Serang inherited that spirit, and it remains part of the city's character today. Look closely and you will see it everywhere. In classrooms where students prepare for careers that will connect them to the global economy. In businesses that serve local communities while reaching broader markets. In cultural traditions that preserve local identity while welcoming visitors from different backgrounds. In communities that continue to value both heritage and progress. These are not contradictions, they are strengths. The strongest societies are often those capable of balancing continuity with change. And Serang has spent centuries learning exactly how to do that. Yet every city faces defining moments. Moments when choices determine the direction of the future. For Serang, one of those moments arrived in 2007, when it officially became the capital city of Banten province. Expectations changed overnight. The city was no longer simply a historical centre. It became an administrative heart, a centre of governance, a symbol of provincial leadership. With that responsibility came new challenges. Infrastructure had to expand, public services had to improve, educational opportunities had to grow, economic development had to accelerate. The city needed to evolve, and evolve it did. The years that followed witnessed significant transformation. Roads became more connected, institutions became stronger, investment increased, urban development expanded. New opportunities emerged for residents and businesses alike.
But perhaps the most impressive achievement was not physical development, it was the ability to modernize without losing identity. Many cities struggle with this balance. As they grow, they lose touch with their roots. Historic districts disappear, cultural traditions fade, community bonds weaken. Serang chose a different path. Rather than treating history as an obstacle to progress, it embraced history as a foundation for progress. This mindset changes everything, because when people understand where they come from, they gain a clearer sense of where they want to go. History becomes a compass, culture becomes an anchor, identity becomes a source of strength, and strength is exactly what every city needs in an increasingly uncertain world. The 21st century is moving faster than any period in human history. Technological breakthroughs reshape industries overnight, global markets shift rapidly, new challenges emerge with unprecedented speed. In such an environment, adaptability becomes essential. Fortunately, adaptability has always been part of Serang's story. For centuries, this region adapted to changing trade routes, adapted to political transformations, adapted to economic transitions, adapted to social change. The city survived because its people understood an important truth. The future belongs to those willing to evolve. But evolution does not require abandoning principles. It requires building upon them. This is one of the most valuable lessons Serang offers the world.
You can embrace innovation without forgetting tradition. You can pursue progress without sacrificing identity. You can prepare for tomorrow while honoring yesterday. That philosophy is visible across the city. It is visible in educational institutions that combine modern learning with cultural values. It is visible in community programs that encourage development while preserving heritage. It is visible in families who teach children to dream boldly while respecting their roots. And perhaps nowhere is this more evident than among the younger generation. The youth of Serang stand at a remarkable crossroads. They inherit one of the richest historical legacies in Indonesia. At the same time, they possess unprecedented access to global knowledge, technology, and opportunity. Few generations in history have enjoyed such potential. The challenge is not whether opportunity exists. The challenge is how that opportunity will be used. Will it create stronger communities? Will it generate innovation? Will it solve problems? Will it inspire future generations? The answers to these questions are still being written. Every student studying today is helping write them. Every entrepreneur launching a new venture is helping write them. Every teacher, engineer, artist, scientist, and community leader is helping write them. Together, they are shaping the next chapter of Serang's story, and what a remarkable chapter it could become. Imagine a future where Serang is recognized internationally, not only for its history, but also for its innovation. A future where cultural tourism flourishes, where educational excellence attracts talent, where sustainable development creates prosperity, where historic preservation and modern growth work hand in hand. That future is not impossible. In many ways, it is already beginning, because the foundations already exist. A strategic location, a rich cultural heritage, a resilient population, growing infrastructure, expanding educational opportunities, strong community values. These are assets that many cities spend decades trying to create. Serang already possesses them. The task now is to build upon them, to transform potential into achievement, to transform ambition into reality, to transform vision into action. History suggests that Serang is more than capable of doing exactly that. After all, this is a city that emerged from the legacy of a great sultanate, a city that became the heart of a province, a city that continues to evolve while preserving its soul, a city that has already overcome challenges that might have overwhelmed others. And if the past teaches us anything, it is that places with such resilience rarely stop growing. They continue adapting, they continue learning, they continue inspiring. They continue proving that greatness is not defined by recognition. Greatness is defined by impact. And Serang's impact continues to grow with every passing year. The world may not fully understand that yet, but history often rewards patience. The cities that endure are not always the loudest. They are the ones that remain true to themselves while steadily building the future. That has been Serang's story for centuries, and it remains Serang's story today. And perhaps that is why Serang feels different from so many other places. Not because it is perfect, not because it is famous, not because it seeks attention, but because it possesses something that cannot be easily measured, a sense of purpose, a sense of continuity, a sense of belonging. In a world where change happens faster than ever before, these qualities have become incredibly valuable. Many communities struggle to preserve their identity amid rapid modernization. Many cities search for a story that can unite their people. Many societies wonder how to move forward without losing sight of what truly matters. Serang offers an answer, not through speeches, not through slogans, but through example. For centuries, this city has demonstrated that progress and heritage are not enemies. They are partners. One provides direction, the other provides foundation. One looks toward the future, the other preserves the wisdom of the past. Together, they create something powerful, something enduring, something capable of surviving the tests of time. When future historians examine the story of Serang, they may focus on different milestones.
They may discuss the rise of the Sultanate of Banten. They may analyse the role of international trade. They may examine the city's development as the capital of Banten province. They may study its economic growth and cultural evolution. All of these topics are important, yet beneath every historical event lies a deeper truth. The story of Serang has always been a story about people choosing hope over fear, building rather than surrendering, creating rather than destroying, dreaming rather than accepting limitations. Generation after generation, those choices accumulated. They shaped neighbourhoods, they shaped institutions, they shaped traditions. Eventually, they shaped the city itself. This is how great places are built, not through a single achievement, not through one extraordinary leader, not through one defining moment, but through countless acts of determination repeated across centuries. That is exactly what happened here. Think about the builders who constructed the Great Mosque of Banten more than 400 years ago. They likely understood they were creating something important, but could they have imagined that centuries later people would still admire their work? Could they have imagined that future generations would see the mosque as a symbol of cultural harmony and historical endurance? Probably not. Yet their efforts outlived them, their vision outlived them, their legacy outlived them. And that is one of the most powerful lessons history can teach. The things we build today may influence people we will never meet. The values we preserve today may guide generations not yet born. The decisions we make today may shape futures we cannot yet imagine. Serang is filled with evidence of this truth. Every historic site, every preserved tradition, every cultural practice passed from parent to child, every institution built for the public good. All of these are gifts from previous generations. They are reminders that progress is not something we inherit automatically. It is something people create through effort and sacrifice. And now the responsibility belongs to the present generation. The young people growing up in Serang today are not merely observers of history, they are participants in it. The choices they make will determine what the city becomes in the decades ahead. Will Serang become a model for sustainable development? Will it become a centre of education and innovation? Will it strengthen its position as a destination for cultural and historical tourism? Will it continue balancing modernisation with preservation? The answers are still unfolding, but one thing is already clear. The potential is enormous, because the ingredients for success are already present. A strong cultural identity, a strategic location, a resilient population, a rich historical foundation, a growing economy, and perhaps most importantly, a generation full of ambition. Ambition is a remarkable force. It drives exploration, it fuels invention, it transforms possibilities into realities. Throughout history, ambitious people have changed the course of nations, and every major achievement begins with a simple belief, the belief that tomorrow can be better than today. That belief is visible throughout Serang. It is visible in students pursuing education despite obstacles. It is visible in families investing in their children's future. It is visible in entrepreneurs taking risks to create opportunities. It is visible in communities working together to improve their surroundings. These efforts may not always make international headlines, yet they matter. In fact, they matter more than most headlines ever will, because real progress happens at the community level. It happens when people decide to care, to contribute, to participate, to build. Serang's future will not be determined solely by policies or infrastructure projects. Those are important. But ultimately, the future will be determined by people, by their character, by their vision, by their willingness to work together towards shared goals. History suggests that the people of this region are more than capable of meeting that challenge.
After all, they are descendants of generations who transformed a trading kingdom into a center of influence, generations who endured periods of uncertainty, generations who preserved culture through changing times, generations who continued moving forward despite obstacles. That spirit remains alive, and it remains one of Serang's greatest strengths. As night settles over the city and lights illuminate streets, homes, offices, schools, and places of worship, it becomes impossible not to feel a sense of optimism, because every light represents a story: a family pursuing a better future, a student studying for an exam, a worker supporting loved ones, a business owner planning tomorrow's opportunities, a community preparing for the future. Millions of individual stories unfolding simultaneously, together forming the larger story of Serang, a story still being written, a story still evolving, a story that continues to inspire. And perhaps decades from now, when future generations reflect on this era, they will recognize that they were living through a period of transformation, a period when Serang embraced both its history and its future, a period when new opportunities emerged, a period when communities worked together to build something lasting, a period when the city continued proving that identity and progress can coexist. That lesson alone makes Serang remarkable, because many places struggle to find that balance. Serang demonstrates that it is possible, not easy, but possible. And sometimes possibility is all that is needed, because possibility creates hope. Hope inspires action. Action creates change, and change shapes history. For centuries, Serang has been shaped by history. Now it is helping shape the future, not only for Banten, not only for Indonesia, but as an example to anyone who believes that communities become strongest when they remember where they came from while boldly pursuing where they want to go. That belief has carried Serang through generations, and it will continue carrying the city forward for generations yet to come. Because the journey is far from over. In many ways, it is only just beginning. And as the journey continues, another truth begins to emerge. The story of Serang is not only about buildings, institutions, or historical landmarks. It is also about values, values that have endured through centuries of transformation, values that helped communities survive periods of uncertainty, values that continue guiding people as they navigate an increasingly complex world. Among those values is faith. For generations, faith has been woven into the identity of this region. It has shaped traditions, it has influenced culture, it has provided comfort during difficult times and gratitude during prosperous ones. The Great Mosque of Banten stands as one of the most visible symbols of this spiritual legacy. Yet the true legacy of faith cannot be measured by architecture alone. It can be seen in the compassion people show one another. It can be seen in acts of generosity. It can be seen in communities coming together during times of need. Because faith is not only something preserved in historic sites, it is something lived every day. Another enduring value is resilience. History rarely follows a straight path. Every society faces moments of uncertainty. Every generation encounters challenges that test its strength. The people of Serang know this better than most. Their ancestors witnessed shifting trade routes, political changes, economic transitions, colonial pressures, social transformations. Yet despite these challenges, they endured. Not because circumstances were easy, but because they refused to give up. That determination became part of the region's character, and today it continues to inspire new generations. Resilience is often misunderstood. People assume it means never experiencing hardship. In reality, resilience means continuing forward despite hardship. It means finding strength when circumstances become difficult. It means believing in possibility even when the future is uncertain. Serang's history is filled with examples of exactly that mindset. Again and again, challenges appeared. Again and again, communities adapted. Again and again, progress continued. This pattern offers an important lesson. Obstacles do not define a community, responses do. And Serang's response throughout history has consistently been one of perseverance. There is also another value deeply embedded within the city's story, the value of connection. For centuries, Banten served as a meeting point for people from different backgrounds.